everybody, this is Anne and welcome back to Painting Big. Today we are going to start a short series on faces, basic faces. I'm going to keep these all pretty short, and this one's going to have two topics. The first is, how far apart should your shadow, midtone, and highlight colors be on faces and in skin in general? And second of all, where do you place your highlights and shadows on faces? All right, let's get to it. All right, we're going to work with Rielle. She's an elven bard. Let's see, where's her? So Reaper Miniatures. Rielle, female elf bard, 7124. And we'll get close. We're going to have to get really close, so I'm going to have to stay on camera. Always fun. So one thing I do want to mention right away, depending on the color of skin you're starting with, you may get differing results depending on your choice of primer. So here I've just chosen to paint over the gray plastic because this is just a model for the demo. And I used to use gray primer a lot, actually, and this is a pretty good color for a light gray primer as well. As you can see, it gives you a pretty true color. If this was going over white, you would see this color look just a little lighter when it dried. And if this was over black, you'd see this color go much darker when it dried. So kind of keep that in mind. Your primer color actually does impact how your colors look. It's why I tend to like gray and white primer the best, because I don't like how much I have to fight with a black primer to get it to show the true color of the paint. But anyway, apart from that, if you're a member of the Cult of Black Primer, you do you. Just be aware the colors will go much darker. Another thing I want to mention is, even though I'm starting with kind of a medium to fair skin tone on this one, I will be doing a video on dark skin tones as well. So just stay tuned for that in the coming months. Okay, so let's get into it. I started with my colors here. I should show you this. So let's talk about how far apart your colors should be as far as value, which is light or dark. Kind of value is a measure of how light or dark a color is. And this is my succession of colors. They're all Reaper MSP. This is MSP Swarthy Flesh, which is a bones color. This is tanned skin. This is fair skin and fair skin plus white. And this is the new MSP 2.0 fair skin, just because I love it. If you're working with older MSP, you'll want to go with fair shadow instead. We adjusted the fair skin color quite a bit going into 2.0. And then, yeah, this is that fair skin plus white. It's a 1-to-1. All right, so how do I decide these are pretty good colors? First of all, I know I'm not thinning these a whole lot on this particular project, so I want to make my colors pretty close together. If you get yourself a little color wheel, we have these, they have these on Amazon, and you can probably find them in most art stores. This is just a little guy, but you can see these values. They've got the dark values on the one side and the light values on the other. So what I do if I want to kind of assess a value is I move the edge of the color wheel over the paint and I look at it just along like where it crosses over. So if you look, what you can see here is you can clearly see the edge here, right? You can see the difference. That means that this is not a value 7. However, see how these kind of blend together? So this paint is a value 6. That's what it's closest to. If I move to this next one, the 6 is obviously too dark, but the 7 fades right in, so that's a 7. Move down here, and the 7 is too dark, but the 8 fades right in. And then you go up here, and the 8 is too dark, but the 9 fades in. So we have a succession here from value 6, 7, 8, and 9, with pure white being 10. So if we wanted to, we could do 5 stages of highlighting if we go up to a very pale off-white version, say, of this. Now, if I'm painting gaming faces, I'm probably only going up 3 steps, and I might even skip this one and just jump up to these just so I get maximum contrast. Because if you're painting a gaming model, you really just want the features to stand out. You're not very much looking for blending or a really awesome face. If you are trying to go for a very awesome face, that's when you start doing more levels. But the most I've ever done on a 28mm face is 5. So when I used to paint for Golden Demon or whatever else competition level I was doing, the most I ever found it necessary to do with your average tanned to fair type of skin tone is 5 levels. But like I said, you can get really good results with 3. Obviously, if you're used to painting gaming models, you're used to doing the base coat wash with a highlight, right? There's 3 levels. There you go. Today, we'll see how far we go, but I'm going to start with just the basics. Let's see. That's as close as my camera is going to get us. And what I'm going to do now is tell you guys where to put your highlights. So we're going to grab our tan skin, which is the first color up. So not our base color, but the next one up. I'm keeping these paints pretty thick so you guys will be able to see what I'm doing. But really just look at how the light is falling on her face right now, and it's your map. So we want a forehead that's painted all light. So the light really tends to fall on the forehead. And these the temples here, they tend to also be light. So this ridge right here at the edge of the eye. Then you've got the line of the nose, always. Don't paint the side of the nose, though. Keep the side of the nose in shadow. If the model's got nostrils, you can absolutely try to hit those. But otherwise, leave the side of the nose in shadow. You want to get the cheekbones for sure, and you want to get them all the way up to the inner corner of the eye, but you want to leave the side of the nose dark. So right up against to the side of the nose, you want to do that. And I'm not blending at this point, I'm just like working. So just that stripe right there, right up against the bottom of the eye. I'll go over on this side. If I wanted to blend, I would be thinning my paint more, and I'd be building up more layers. I'd be using a different brush stroke, but this is just about where to put your highlights. Now, obviously that looks a little weird, like she's wearing a mask, but what we have to remember is that the front of human faces are flat, and so the light is going to come down from there. So pretty much just drop those highlights on that cheekbone down to that upper lip, and highlight that upper lip. Now she does have a smile crease here, so we could leave a little bit of that. The more you leave, the older the face will look. The deeper the creases are, the more mature the face will look. So keep that in mind. I'm going to just totally paint over them for this because this is a simple demo. The chin gets a strong highlight here. I will do this first highlight. I will absolutely take up the side of the jaw. Our jaw does tend to flare out a little bit on the bottom and pick up just a little bit of light, even if it's just reflected light. Top of the ear. There are these little pockets of muscle. Maybe you can see it. See that light right there? Right at the corner of the mouth down here. And if you've got good brush control, feel free to get that. And that's essentially a little muscle right there that is part of our smile muscles, right? It's kind of controls this this part of the mouth. That's optional, but it'll really add a lot of life to your face if you can hit that little, see that little dot that I just hit. Otherwise, though, let's get the other side here. Get the other side of the jaw. We're going to do blush and such in a different video. Blush and lips, and talk about different color zones of the face. There'll be at least 3 or 4 videos in this set. Again, get that little corner right at the edge of the lower lip. That's our first set of highlight. Now, what I will often do at this point, because it's so hard to judge light and dark when you've just got primer all around it, and I tend to work on the face kind of in a vacuum. It's one of the first things I paint on the model. But it usually is hard for me to assess how much these highlights and shadows are actually working until I line around the face. So we'll talk a bit more about where I line. But in general, right now, we're just going to put a line around the face, between the face and the hair, and the face and the clothes. Just so I can, not only so I can see it, but so you guys can hopefully see the differences here a bit more. Essentially putting a little bit of a dark line helps you to see the contrast a little bit more when you've got something to compare it to that isn't just primer or plastic. And I've thinned my liner. This is brown liner, 9064 from MSP. I do love the liners because they're just so nice and fluid, and if you leave them thicker, they make a really dark line. If you thin them down, they still hold together pretty well, and they'll make you a nice organic shadow. Brown liner is my favorite, but there are a few liners out there. But see how that line, now I'm starting to be able to kind of compare kind of judge the face, how much light or dark it is. You can see the highlights a little better. It's not just like it's in a vacuum. It's weird. I don't know what visual tendency in humans this plays off of, unless it is our love of contrast and the fact that our eyes tend to be drawn to contrast. So the more contrast I can give you, the more you have a tool to look at the relative light or darkness of everything around it. So for now, the face is going to look weird to me because I'm used to blacking in the eyes. But instead, we're going to go around, and now we're going to take our next highlight, and we're going to progress over what we did here. You're going to shrink your highlight, so it's not going to take up the whole forehead. Instead, it's just going to take up the top part of the forehead. And it's going to leave a little bit more sticking out underneath. And this is with the fair skin. I can do a couple of layers if I want to really build it up. Here is where I kind of hesitate and go, probably this light would be all on top of here, so I probably want to drop this first highlight down a little bit onto the cheek. So I'll bring up this highlight really sharp. Get the nose again, and this time I'll leave a little bit of that previous highlight up here toward the crease between the eyes. Again, I'll hit the nostrils if I can. You could hold off until the end and then try to hit the nostrils. It's up to you. Yeah, so this is a little bit too much. I need a little bit of that transition color to come down here. Just a little. And like I said, we'll be talking about blush and adding reddish tones to the face soon enough. This paint is a little bit thicker. Not as thin as I would normally use for this. So if we get some texture, we do, but I can probably correct it with a glaze at the end. I definitely can see, you'll be able to see brush strokes for sure, is pretty much what we're coming down to. And you should. I want you to be able to see kind of the layers that we're doing. Making sure my previous layer didn't get totally killed out there. And again, this highest highlight is going to come out onto all these areas. I'll make it a little thinner. On a bust, by the way, you would definitely keep a shadow under the nose, but on a 28mm, you tend to just paint the underside of the nose darker. I did not get the chin very well on the other side, so I'm going to go back to my tan skin and make sure I've got that on both sides. And then when I come down to the chin is when we start seeing a difference, because with my fair skin, I'm only going to hit the chin, and I'm not going to carry that up the jawline, because I just want a little highlight up the jawline, but the main light on any figure is on the front of the face. This is so hard to see without. Okay, I'm going to go against my own directives, and I'm going to totally block in these eyes. So I always use a little bit of liner. To darken the orbit of the eye. Just a tad, so that we have a little bit more contrast. All right, there we go. Makes a big difference, doesn't it? It's so weird. Now she looks like Alien Resurrection or something, but just ignore that. Just ignore the creepy face. I'm also going to line the mouth. This is something I see a lot of beginning painters not do. That really helps the face, is to put that line on the mouth. All right, but then we're going to go back to our highlights. You can start to see everything. Once you've got that frame of reference so that the eyes and the mouth are different, you see a bit more of the face, right? And if we did the eyebrows, which again are going to be a future video, that would also change dramatically the look of the face. So we are also getting a bit of the Pink Floyd weirdness of not having eyebrows right now. So she says, please believe that I am beautiful, everybody. I'm much cooler looking than you think I am right now. Sorry, I'm having an ugly phase. All minis go through that, right? So yeah, so if I was doing gaming figure, like, that's more than good enough, right? That's 3 layers. That's my base coat, my first highlight, and my second highlight. And like, if I back up, oh, that's too far, Anne, too far. If we back up, the face looks okay. There's obviously a lot more I could do, and I think I've lost the highlight over there a little bit on the jaw. There, that's better. So you can see how adding that highlight on the jaw actually works a lot. And if we want, we also could we're going to paint over the bottom of the ear a bit with a different color in the future. But we certainly can highlight the bottom edge if we want to. So there. So yeah, that would be fine for a gaming figure. If I want to go further, that's when it starts getting down to brush control, because you're going to want to probably thin your paint quite a bit. I'm going to get this fair skin plus white thinned down a little bit more, so it's at least about a 3-to-1. I still want you guys to be able to see what I'm doing. I don't want everything to blend in. And I'm going to grab a smaller brush. Tiny brush? Yeah, sure. Let's try that. Triple Aught Da Vinci. This is a Da Vinci Maestro Series 10 000 Da Vinci Maestro Series 10. All right, so again, we're going to shrink our highlights. That's why I'm reaching for a smaller brush, because I'm going to need to really shrink my highlights to get in here. So first of all, again, even smaller highlight up here. You want to keep it toward the center of the forehead if your light is coming straight down. You want to make it rounded if you can, and you can go back and forth a bit with your previous highlight in this one to kind of touch it up and make sure. That's because the forehead has that rounded dome to it. So I always keep it a little bit more of a round highlight so it doesn't look weird. Load up all this. When you're working with a tiny brush, you do need to load it up more so you can see that top highlight. Now I am going to get the top of the eyelids now that I have this, especially toward the outside. The light tends to fall more on the outer edge of the eye, like so. This is where it comes in. You can see where the fine motor control comes in here. So your brush control is really important. If you don't have it yet, remember lining is one of the tools that you can use. One of the techniques that will teach you more brush control faster. I'm going to pick up that lower edge of the eye. See where I got it right there? This model does have the eyelids sculpted. Not all 28s you pick up will. So again, I'm not focusing toward the middle because when you look at an eye in real life, you tend to have a shadow right here. So I'm not going to pick up the eyelid going toward the center of the eye. And then I'm going to pick up again that outer edge down below. Oh, a little bit blurfy there. Not as tight, but close. We're lacking a real shadow here. We're just pretty much using our base coat as our shadow, but we certainly can shade down and it will help to bring definition to this face when we do. All right, so highest highlight. So I didn't even really touch the cheekbones here, but if I wanted to, I could put a highlight like way up toward the center. And then you want to hit just the tip of the nose. And then I probably will hit like the outer sides of the upper lip here. And I won't hit the area right under her nose. I'll try to hit just the top of the chin. So yeah, as you go up really high with your highlights, that's when you start to be much more precise with where you're putting them, even though this is a tiny face. And that's why I wouldn't do this for a gaming model, right? I would just do this for a model I wanted to look good. But if it was my D&D character, sure, I would do it, right? Because that's my character, and I want my character to look good. I'm going to take this high highlight, actually, and I am going to put it up on her ear. Top of the ear, not the bottom. All right. I think I want a little bit more. I'm going to go back down one to the fair skin, and I'm going to get a little bit in the outer part of the eye here. And again, I could take a little bit more of that tan skin and bring it just a little bit down into this area. You don't want to leave just a huge block of shadow here. You do want to kind of blend it in. It's just a little bit more titchy to do so. And this is where you can see the texture, and this is why you want to thin your paint. I want you guys to see my layers, but if you want a really decent face, you want to thin your paint a bit more. And instead of maybe just putting one layer on, you probably want to build up two. It's going to make sure that you keep away from any weird texture or brush strokes. Now, if I've got this where I want it, but I'm unhappy with my brush strokes, I can glaze. And glazing is the magic. Sure, I tell you guys I'm going to go real short on this video, and then look at me. All right, so let's get this blocked in. I want this cheekbone to come up a little bit. All right, there we go. Her smile still looks a little weird without all of the shading, but okay. So you can see clearly the facial features, right? And if we zoom a little back, you can still see them. But that's where you place your highlights. Now, to even this out, because it's definitely a bit rocky, I'm going to grab my shadow color. I'm going to put it here. I'm just going to throw a bunch of water in. With glazes, you want to really to be about 1:1. You want colored water. You guys can watch my glazing video over on the Fundamentals of Miniature Painting series if you want to. But I'm going to do a quick one here and see if we can even this out a little bit. I might need to do 2 layers because I've thinned my paint a lot. That's the thing with glazes. I usually tell people start with it thinner than you want, because that way you can always add another layer, but taking a layer off is impossible. And we're going to glaze that tanned color, that dark tanned color, our base coat, over the whole thing. And then we're going to take our brush, and I want to just wick off any excess. Usually it's going to be pooling around, and it's always going to dry lighter than it looks. And that has evened out a lot of that irregularity. Glazing is where the magic happens, folks. It's like the last technique. It's the last technique that most mini painters will learn as far as filling out their basic toolkit. If it's not that, it's wet blending, but wet blending is optional. But as far as fundamental techniques, glazing is often the last one you get comfortable with, the last one you learn, but it's where the magic happens. It is really where you can start getting some amazing results and fine-tuning your work. So it's worth practicing with it, even if it makes you uncomfortable. So there we go. So now you can still see my highlights. I have knocked them down a bit. When you glaze with a dark, you do almost always have to reapply your top highlight. But before I do that, I'm going to throw more water into it. But yeah, so if I want to now, I can, re-highlight a little bit up there, re-highlight a little bit here. I would just take my top highlight. Maybe just bring a little bit more in if I want to. But if I felt like that was going to pop it too far out again, I could always reglaze. That's the great thing. Glazing is so thin that you can re-highlight and reglaze 40 times and you won't have to worry about buildup. So anyway, folks, that's where you place your highlights on a face. We are going to deal with adding additional shading, blush, lip color, eyeballs, all that stuff in future videos, okay? So definitely come back around and hit me up for that. And until then, practice your face highlighting, all right? Thanks so much. And this is Anne signing off.